The massive alien ship drifted through the blackness of space like a luminous crystal. Its surface shimmered with violet and blue pulses, each throb glowing like the slow beat of a sleeping giant's heart. Measuring over 3 miles long, the ship was shaped like a delicate flower, crafted not from petals, but from translucent alloys and curved glass. This was the Eternal Harmony, the flagship of the Zephyrian fleet and the pride of their civilization. Inside, hundreds of Zephyrians moved gracefully through gleaming corridors, humming with ambient energy. The Zephyrians themselves were beings of light, lacking solid form. They shimmered like sentient shadows made of plasma and will. Sometimes they assumed the shapes of robed humanoids. Other times they condensed into orbs of radiant color that floated like living stars. Ambassador Velta stood within the ceremonial chamber at the ship's heart, a vast hall whose domed ceiling was adorned not with projections, but real starlight. The Zephyrians had developed a way to capture and suspend fragments of stellar brilliance, turning their ceilings into living maps of the galaxy. Velta's own glow had aged to a rich golden hue, a mark of seniority and wisdom among his kind. Today was historic. 3 months earlier, the Zephyrians had made contact with a new species, humans. These curious beings hailed from a distant blue world called Earth, and though their physiology was alien flesh and bone, dependent on oxygen and chemical nourishment, they had reached out with messages of peace and interest in mutual growth. The humans had expressed their desire to join the collective, a vast alliance of 12 spacefaring species, including energy beings like the Zephyrians, botanical life forms, sentient machines, and other stranger types. The collective shared knowledge, resources, and peaceful collaboration across dozens of star systems. Now humanity hoped to join their ranks as a gesture of goodwill. The humans had sent a gift delivered by automated courier just hours ago. The message was brief and respectful, a token of friendship and sustenance for our new allies. We hope you accept this gift as a sign of our peaceful intent. The word sustenance had caught attention. Among the collective, sharing nourishment was sacred, an act of familial trust. Though Zephyrians did not eat like humans, the symbolism still mattered. They fed on energy-absorbing solar radiation, electromagnetic fields, and stellar byproducts, so a gift of sustenance from humanity would have been carefully tailored to their needs. When the Zephyrian scientists scanned the object, they were astounded. Inside the simple gray metal container was a sphere radiating extraordinary power. It glowed with internal energy so intense, it rivaled miniature stars. "The humans are generous," said science leader Cathra, her form pulsing with admiration. "This object contains enough energy to sustain multiple Zephyrians through several full cycles. They must have gone to great effort to match our biology. They understood our nature," added Commander Dexter. "They could have sent their own food, but instead they designed something we could use. It shows intent, respect." Ambassador Velta nodded slowly. He was pleased, but cautious. In his long life he had seen many first contacts succeed and many fail. "A thoughtful gesture," he said. "But we must be wary. Among many species, sharing food implies more than friendship. It signals kinship, obligation. The humans may expect bonds we do not yet understand." "Would that be so terrible?" asked a young officer, Linda, glowing with youthful curiosity. "They seem curious and bold. They crossed light years in primitive machines. That's courage." Velta allowed a soft radiance of approval. "You may be right, but before we embrace, we must truly see one another." A chime interrupted them. A technician floated forward and bowed. "Ambassador, the human gift has been prepared. The absorption chamber is ready. Safety protocols are in place." The moment had arrived. Velta and the others moved into a smaller chamber beside the main hall. This was where Zephyrians took in high-density energy sources. Crystals along the walls hummed and sparkled, ready to redirect and buffer any surges. At the center stood the gift. The object was stunning up close, a smooth metallic sphere, polished to a mirror shine. Symbols and etchings covered its surface, shifting subtly as one stared, like optical illusions built into the metal. Clearly, the humans had put effort into its appearance. "Incredible energy output," whispered Cathra, scanning the sphere. "It's off scale. I've never seen this density in such a compact form." "How much?" Velta asked. "Enough to feed a dozen of us for a full cycle." "Their technology is unexpected," Velta agreed silently. Earth had joined the interstellar community only 50 years ago, yet here they were, sending gifts that rivaled the collective's finest. The ceremony began. The Zephyrians sang harmonics of welcome, sounds that resonated like wind chimes drifting through thunderstorms. As the tones filled the room, the walls glowed. The starlight above pulsed in tune. Velta approached the platform, calm but alert. Billions would watch this. His reaction would shape the future of human-Zephyrian relations. He extended his tendrils and visible threads of energy, used to interact with Mataran, gently touched the surface of the sphere. Immediately, power flooded through him. Pure, clean, electric light. It was exquisite, like diving into a neutron sun or breathing raw plasma. The sensation overwhelmed him. For a moment, he floated in bliss, but then, something changed. The sphere vibrated. At first it was a soft thrum, most like a purr, but then it escalated. The hum became a tremor. The crystals lining the chamber flashed red. "Ambassador," cried Cathra, "something's wrong." Velt tried to retreat, but his tendrils wouldn't disengage. The energy began flowing in reverse, pulling from him, draining him. Alarms blared, lights dimmed, and emergency systems activated. Commander Dexter scanned the sphere, his form flaring. In alarm. "This isn't sustenance," he whispered. "It's a weapon." Velta's glow flickered. "What?" "It's a fission-based device, unstable materials undergoing rapid decay. That energy we detected, it's a nuclear reaction." Silence fell heavy and sickening. They had misunderstood. This wasn't a gift, it was a bomb, and Velter's interaction had triggered its countdown. "How long?" Cathra demanded. Dexter stared at his readouts. "Just under 4 minutes. Enough force to obliterate the eternal harmony and everything within 1,000 kilometers." Panic spread. Officers sprinted to escape routes. Scientists backed up data, gathered samples, but Velter was still tethered to the sphere, its unwilling conduit. He sagged, barely luminous. "Evacuate," he rasped. "Save yourselves." Cathra stood firm. "We won't leave you. You must. Don't let them win." But there was no time. The countdown reached 30 seconds. Then 20, 10, 5. They braced for death. 4, 3, 2, 1, nothing. The sphere dimmed. The vibration stopped. The room fell into an eerie, trembling silence. The energy readings disappeared. The connection broke. Velta collapsed. For long moments, no one moved. Then finally, Cathra whispered what happened. Dexter scanned again. "The reaction has stopped. It's shut down. The device is inert." "How?" someone asked. "I don't know," Dexter admitted. "Either it was flawed or this was the plan all along." Velta rose shakily, his glow barely flickering. "It doesn't matter why," he said. "What matters is what they did. They sent a weapon disguised as peace. They tried to kill me. They tried to destroy us." The chamber fell into stunned silence. Whatever humanity had claimed, whatever promises they'd made, the truth had revealed itself. And this was only the beginning. The humans' friendly messages had all been lies. That was now clear. It meant they were planning something far worse than deception, an attack on the collective, a war. "We must inform High Command immediately," said Commander Dexter. Within the hour, encrypted emergency transmissions raced across the galaxy. All 12 homeworlds of the collective received the news. A storm of alarm ignited across their networks that humans had revealed their true nature: violent, deceptive, and utterly untrustworthy. The High Command convened an emergency session on Zephyr Prime, the crystalline heartworld of the Zephyrians. In the Great Council Chamber, 12 species gathered. Their forms varied wildly, from radiant energy like the Zephyrians to sentient plants, aquatic beings, and mechanical intelligences encased in walking machines. High Counselor Murthan, the oldest and most revered Zephyrian, opened the session. His energy shimmered with ancient density, almost solid, like a monument carved from light. "Fellow counselors," he began solemnly, "we face a grave threat. The humans have attempted to assassinate our ambassador with a nuclear device hidden as a diplomatic gift. This cannot go unanswered." Murmurs of agreement followed, some as audible tones, others as pulses of color or silent bursts of static. Yet all understood the severity of what had occurred. "What do we know of human military capability?" asked Counselor Vexera of the Silicon Crystalline Republic. "Very little," admitted General Coulter, the Zephyrian military commander. "We've only been in contact with them for 3 months. Their technology appears primitive: chemical propulsion, nuclear fusion, sublight drives, crude compared to ours. And yet," said Counselor Hezelin of the Verdant Alliance, her vine-like tendrils twitching, "they nearly succeeded in killing our ambassador. We must not mistake technological backwardness for harmlessness." General Coulter activated a holographic interface. Above the chamber appeared images and transmissions intercepted from Earth raw footage, historical data, cultural broadcasts. They watched as scenes of war and bloodshed flickered past: armies in trenches, cities engulfed in flame, mushroom clouds, and silent fields of the dead. "This is who they are," Coulter said, voice tight. "A species defined by violence. Their history is one long sequence of war. Their inventions, machines, chemicals, even biology, are turned into weapons. They glorify war in their art. They build monuments to conquest. Surely they would not turn that violence against us," said Counselor Tamara of the Photonic Consortium, her glow pulsing with uncertainty. "They must know they cannot win. We are beyond them." "That's exactly why they resorted to assassination," replied Coulter. "They know they cannot face us in open war, so they tried to kill our ambassador in secret. That was only their first strike. There will be more." High Counselor Murthan stared at the grim images. In his long life he had seen dozens of species enter the collective. Many had once been aggressive, but learned peace. But this was different. Humans didn't merely survive war, they worshipped it. "What do you recommend?" he asked quietly. "We strike first," Coulter answered without hesitation. "Deploy a pacification fleet, go to their home system and force their surrender. If they resist, we dismantle their military infrastructure. Once they see our power, they'll fall in line." Some counselors nodded, others hesitated. "We are peacekeepers," said Councillor Nath of the Aquatic Federation. "Shouldn't we try to speak with them again? Perhaps it was a mistake. Perhaps their gift malfunctioned." "Malfunctioned," Coulter snapped. "It was a nuclear warhead disguised as sustenance. That is not a translation error, that is deception." "But their technology is crude," Nath argued. "Maybe they intended to send us energy. Maybe it wasn't a bomb until we interacted with it." "Which proves they are too dangerous to be left alone," said Coulter. "A species that cannot distinguish between a reactor and a weapon should not wield either." The debate raged for hours, but slowly, inevitably, consensus formed. Humanity was a threat. A cunning, dangerous, unstable species on the brink of becoming too powerful to contain. They could not be allowed to continue unchecked. "Very well," said Mirth. "At last. General Coulter, you are authorized to assemble a pacification fleet. You will travel to the human system and force their surrender. Use whatever means necessary, but minimize loss of life. We are not conquerors. I understand, High Counselor. How large a fleet do you require?" Mirthan paused, then answered grimly, 200 ships, capital vessels, cruisers, escorts, enough to overwhelm anything they might muster. And so it began. Within days, the largest military fleet in collective history gathered in orbit above Zephyr Prime. 100 vessels, drawn from every member species. Elegant constructs of glass and energy from the Crystalline Republic. Bioengineered leviathans from the Verdant Alliance. Relentless war drones from the Photonic Consortium. The fleet's flagship was a massive Zephyrian dreadnought, the Righteous Purpose, over 5 miles long, bristling with enough firepower to shatter continents. General Coulter assumed command. Their weapons were beyond human comprehension. Graviton compression beams, quantum disruptors, molecular disassemblers, shields impenetrable. To conventional force, their campaign would last hours, perhaps less. Back on Earth, the response was panic. Diplomatic signals sent to the Zephyrians had gone unanswered for days. The humans had explained the misunderstanding in every language. They knew. They'd provided technical specs, videos, apologies, and pleas. No reply. President Sarah Martinez stood in the Global Defense Command war room, surrounded by military leaders and scientists. The mood was bleak. "Status of our message, CR." Ask Head Dr. James Chun, lead contact scientist, shook his head. "We've sent everything. Technical specs for the fusion reactor. Diagrams of the containment failure. Video messages from top physicists. We've explained it was meant as a power gift miscommunication, not malice. But they're ignoring us. Maybe they don't believe us," said Admiral Rebecca Torres, head of Earth's Space Fleet. "Or maybe they were waiting for an excuse." General Marcus Rivera added, "Maybe they wanted war all along." Martinez pressed her hands to her forehead. 3 months ago, alien contact had been the dawn of a golden age. Now it was a countdown to extinction. "What are our defense capabilities?" she asked. "Minimal," Torres admitted. "We have 12 interstellar-capable ships. Most are lightly armed exploratory vessels. Our orbital defenses are weak, some missile platforms, early warning satellites. Nothing can stop what's coming." "Does that compare to theirs?" "There's no comparison. Their ships can manipulate gravity. They can disable electronics from orbit. Our nukes might as well be fireworks." Silence fell. The dream of unity among the stars had turned to ashes, sir, a technician called out. "We're picking up energy signatures at the system's edge. Multiple contacts. Faster than big ones." Torres sprinted to the station, eyes narrowing. 200 ships, she said quietly. "They're sending 200 to wipe out 12. President Martinez closed her eyes. No more diplomacy. No more misunderstandings. The end had come, but not all was lost. Captain Marcus Rivera floated in a medpod aboard his ship. Tubes and wires connected his body to every system of the vessel. Though his eyes were shut, his mind was fully engaged. Thanks. 2 cybernetic implants wired into his brain and spine. He was the ship. Every sensor, every circuit, every bolt of steel ran through his nervous system. The ship's name, Indomitable Spite. It had once been a freighter, a slow cargo hauler used to ferry supplies to colonies. Now it was something else. A weapon. Just 1 week, Rivera and his crew had refitted the ship for war. They pushed its reactors to 150% capacity, overclocking its engines far beyond safety limits. The hull groaned, warning lights flared, but it flew. Its crew, 50 volunteers, lay sealed in crash pods, kept alive only by drugs and reinforced compartments. Any mistake in acceleration, and they'd liquefy. But they knew the stakes. If the mission failed, Earth would burn. Cargo bays now held kinetic kill weapons, solid tungsten rods the size of tree trunks, accelerated to near light speed. No explosives needed. The impact alone would unleash more energy than a nuclear warhead. The ship also carried plasma torpedoes, crude railguns, and 3 experimental energy weapons stolen from Earth's deepest black-budget labs. But its most dangerous weapon was Rivera. He was hardwired into every system. He thought like the ship. He fought like it. And now, with the alien fleet bearing down on Earth, he and his crew would have to do the impossible, stop them alone. Captain Rivera had become the weapon, The neural implants linked his mind directly to the ship's systems. He didn't need to speak, move, or touch a console. With thought alone, he could fire weapons, fine-tune engine output, or reroute power through hull plates thinner than a coin. The indomitable spite responded like it was part of his own body. The surgery had nearly killed him. The doctors warned him that the implants could cause seizures, personality collapse, or death within days. Rivera had volunteered anyway. He was Earth's best pilot, and someone had to be willing to die for humanity's last chance. Through the ship's sensors, Rivera saw the alien fleet gliding into the edge of the solar system. 200 ships, radiant and beautiful, moving in perfect coordination. Their energy fields glowed with serene power, each vessel generating more electricity than Earth's entire grid. But Rivera wasn't intimidated. He had spent his life flying against impossible odds, outnumbered, outmaneuvered. He'd survived ambushes by rebel gunships, battles in asteroid fields, and atmospheric dogfights where only one side came home. He had learned one truth: victory doesn't come from having better weapons. It comes from doing what your enemy refuses to do. The aliens were civilized. They followed rules. They minimized casualties. They built vessels meant to last centuries. Humans built ships to burn. They trained soldiers to die. They designed weapons not for elegance but for one purpose: maximum destruction to the collective. That was madness. To humans it was Tuesday. The indomitable spite embodied this ethos. Everything not essential to the mission had been removed. Life support was stripped down. Crew quarters replaced with armor plating and weapon racks. The 50 men and women on board didn't sleep in bunks. They lay sealed in crash pods, drugged and monitored, prepared to die on impact. They weren't passengers. They were ammunition. The alien fleet moved into formation at the solar system's edge. And confident, capital ships in the center, escorts in a protective shell. Standard protocol for superior forces facing primitive enemies. They probably intended to issue a surrender ultimatum before firing. Rivera wasn't going to give them the chance back on Earth. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Defiant, watching the sensor data scroll across her screen. Her 12 ships, barely armed, poorly shielded, were all that stood between Earth and annihilation. They couldn't win. Everyone knew that. The goal was simple: buy time, delay the collective just long enough for evacuation ships to escape. She'd been a naval officer for 30 years before joining the space fleet. She had fought sea battles with missile frigates and submarines. She knew what it meant to face overwhelming firepower. That's why she had approved Rivera's mission. The spite was more than a weapon. It was the variable the aliens hadn't accounted for. Admiral Hercom's officer called. Incoming transmission from the alien flagship. Put it on screen. A towering being of golden energy appeared. General Coulter. Beautiful, terrible, and clearly confident. His voice, smooth and cold, echoed through the ship's translation system. Human military forces. I am General Coulter of the Collective Fleet. You are ordered to surrender immediately and prepare for planetary occupation. Your species has committed an act of war. Resistance is futile and will only result in unnecessary death. Chen stepped forward. General Coulter, I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Fleet. The device that harmed your ambassador wasn't a weapon, it was a power generator. A translation error caused the safety failsafes to malfunction. We've sent technical specs. We never intended to cause harm. Your lies will not save you, Coulter replied. The device contained enough fissile material to destroy our flagship. That was no accident. That material was fuel, Chen said. The error turned a power core into a bomb. It was a mistake, not an attack. Even if true, Coulter said icily, it proves you are too dangerous to remain autonomous. You cannot be trusted with your own technology. Peace will come only when Earth is under collective control. You have 1 hour to surrender. If you do not, we will take your planet by force. The screen went dark. Chen stood motionless for a beat. Then she turned to her officers. All ships, battle stations. We may not survive, but we'll make them bleed for every kilometer. Before the Earth's fleet could reposition, another alert flared. Admiral, we're picking up a ship coming in fast from the outer system. It's moving at almost 10% light speed. Chen's breath caught. Identify. It's the indomitable Spite, ma'am. Captain Rivera's ship. But its energy output is beyond anything we've ever seen. I think they've overclocked the engines. Too critical. A slow smile tugged at Chen's lips. Rivera had gone further than anyone had dared to hope. Patch me through. The reply came through, distorted, crackling with radiation. Admiral, Spite is on final approach. Beginning attack run. Captain, trajectory takes you straight through the enemy's core formation. Are you sure? Affirmative. We're going to show them what happens when you threaten humanity. On the righteous purpose. General Coulter reviewed his final deployment orders when a junior officer called out, Sir, an unidentified human ship is approaching at extreme speed. We believe it's heavily modified. Engines are running at suicidal output levels. Coulter frowned. What kind of ship? Originally a cargo vessel, but it's bristling with weapons. One pilot is active. There are life signs, 50 in total, likely in stasis. Coulter narrowed his glowing eyes. A suicide run. Order our forward escorts to intercept and destroy it. But carefully, it may be armed with nuclear weapons. 6 elegant alien destroyers moved to intercept the Spite. Their gravitic weapons could crush most vessels from kilometers away. Rivera saw them closing in. He could feel their power signatures, feel the targeting arrays locking on. He smiled. They expected him to break formation, or fire missiles, or beg for mercy. Instead, he did something no species in the collective would ever consider. He overloaded all 3 nuclear reactors at once. The Spite became a weaponized stereo projectile hurtling toward the heart of the fleet. The escort ships fired, but their beams couldn't track a ship moving this fast. Their sensors scrambled. Their gravitic fields failed to lock. Rivera was already inside the kill radius. Then he fired. Thousands of tungsten rods burst from the cargo. Base kinetic kill weapons launched like shrapnel from a shotgun. 3 escorts exploded on impact. 2 more tumbled engines crippled. Last tried to flee late, and still Rivera wasn't done. He fired every missile, every torpedo, every crude prototype beam. Some were intercepted, some landed. The cruiser Golden Dawn lost its entire forward section. The destroyer Swift Current was cleaved in half. Rivera reached the center of the formation. His heart pounded in rhythm with the overloading cores. "This is for Earth," he whispered. Then the Spite exploded. A miniature star was born in the void. The blast wave vaporized everything nearby. 7 collective ships were annihilated. Dozens more were scarred. Their hulls melted. Their systems crippled. On the righteous purpose, Coulter stared in disbelief. "Casualties?" he asked hoarsely. 7 ships destroyed, 18 damaged, 2,000 crew lost. 2,000 from 1 human ship. A 40-to-1 kill ratio, whispered a junior officer. Coulter couldn't process it. That should have been impossible. They had the most advanced defenses in the galaxy. Commander Velter, the ambassador's survivor, stepped forward. "General, I think we've misunderstood human warfare. Explain, they don't preserve ships or lives. They use them like ammunition. No other species fights like this." Coulter stared at the void where the Spite had been. His fleet had fought wars for centuries, but never like this. Then came a transmission from Earth's fleet. Admiral Chen appeared. "General Coulter, that was only the beginning. Captain Rivera and his crew gave their lives for Earth, and we have many more willing to do the same." "You speak as if this is a victory," Coulter replied coldly. 7 ships at the cost of 50 lives. That is not efficient. We don't think in terms of efficiency. We think in terms of impact. Rivera proved your ships can bleed. That knowledge is worth any price. You have 11 ships left. We have 193. This is over. "No, General, we don't need to defeat you. We just need to make the cost of winning unbearable." The screen went dark. Then Chen gave the order. "All ships advance, maximum speed." 1 by 1. The 11 remaining Earth ships surged forward, not to fight conventionally, but to ram. The Valiant hit first. Captain Lisa Park detonated, all her nukes at point-blank range, taking the eternal glory with her. The Relentless took out a cruiser. The Determined split a destroyer in half. Every ship died. Every impact killed. Coulter watched in stunned silence as over 40 collective ships were destroyed by 12 suicidal human vessels. "This is madness," he said. "No," Commander Velter said softly. "It's humanity." And then the censor officer turned pale. "Sir, new contacts. 50 more vessels inbound from the inner system." "More military ships?" Coulter asked. "No, sir. Civilian ships, mining freighters, cargo haulers, transports, and every one of them was flying straight toward the collective fleet." Coulter felt something rare rise in his core. Fear. The humans weren't retreating. They were mobilizing everything.
Human fleet was a MLY collection of ships that had never been designed for war. There were asteroid miners with plasma cutters converted into weapons. There were cargo ships loaded with nuclear waste that could be used as dirty bombs. There were passenger liners that had been stripped of their civilian equipment and packed with explosives. Leading this ragtag armada was the converted colony ship. New Horizons Captain Elena Rodriguez had volunteered to command the civilian fleet after hearing about the military sacrifice. Her ship carried 3,000 colonists who had been heading to a new world beyond the solar system, but now they were heading into battle instead. All civilian vessels. "This is Captain Rodriguez. Remember, we are not soldiers, but we are still human. Our military comrades showed these aliens what we are capable of. Now, we must prove that every human is willing to fight for Earth." The civilian ships attacked with the same suicidal tactics as the military vessels. But they were even more unpredictable because they had not been built for combat. Their weapons were improvised, and their defenses were minimal. But they made up for these disadvantages with creativity and determination. The mining ship Asteroid Breaker used its industrial equipment to tear chunks of metal from destroyed alien vessels and hurl them at other ships. The cargo hauler, Heavy Load, converted its magnetic crane into a weapon that could rip alien ships apart. The research vessel. Deep Explorer used its scientific instruments to disrupt alien communications and navigation systems. Each civilian ship fought until it was destroyed, taking alien vessels with it whenever possible. The colonists aboard the New Horizons sang hymns as their ship rammed into a collective abatalish. The miners on the asteroid breaker cheered as they crashed into an alien destroyer. General Calter realized he was not fighting a military force. He was fighting an entire species that had weaponized itself. General Wahave intercepted human data transmissions, reported his intelligence officer. They contained detailed information about human military history and doctrine. Show me. The holographic deskly filled with images and documents from human wars. Throughout history, Coulter saw battles where humans had fought to the last soldier rather than surrender. He saw weapons designed to poison entire continents, saw strategies for fighting wars across multiple planets. But the most disturbing information was about human psychology. The files explained how humans viewed warfare as a natural part of existence. They did not fight to capture territory or resources. They fought to completely destroy their enemies. "Look at this," said Commander Velter, pointing to a particular document. "It is called Nuclear Doctrine. The humans have plans for destroying their own planet rather than allowing it to be conquered." Coulter read the document with growing horror. The humans had built weapons capable of rendering Earth uninhabitable. If they faced defeat, they would trigger these weapons sand, kill every living thing on their world rather than submit to alien rule. They would commit genocide against their own species. According to this, they call it acceptable losses. They believe that if they cannot win, they should make sure their enemies gain nothing from victory. More human ships were approaching from the outer planets. These were industrial vessels from the asteroid belt and mining colonies. They had been converted into weapons platforms and packed with nuclear explosives. Their crews consisted of mowners, engineers, and factory workers who had volunteered to join the fight. Coulter realized that every human in the solar system was now a potential enemy combatant. Men, women, and children were all willing to die to protect their home world. They would fight with military ships, civilian vessels, and their bare hands if necessary. "Sir, we are receiving another transmission from Earth," said the communications officer. This time the transmission came from President Martinez herself. She stood in what appeared to be a bunker deep underground, surrounded by military advisors and government officials. "General Coulter, you have now seen what happens when you threaten humanity. We do not surrender. We do not negotiate. We fight until either you are defeated or we are all dead. But we have one more thing to show you." The president gestured to someone off-screen, and new images appeared on the display. They showed massive underground facilities filled with nuclear weapons, rocket silos containing intercontinental missiles, orbital platforms equipped with planet-killing weapons. "These are our final defenses, General. If your fleet reaches Earth, we will detonate every nuclear weapon on our planet simultaneously. The explosion will be visible from your home worlds. Earth will become a radioactive wasteland, but your fleet will be destroyed along with us." Coulter stared at the images in shock. The humans had turned their entire planet into a weapon. If he continued the attack, he would win a dead world and lose most of his fleet in the process. "We offer you one final choice," President Martinez continued. "Withdraw your fleet and accept our explanation for the fusion reactor incident, or continue your attack and face total war against a species that considers extinction unacceptable. Price for victory." The transmission ended, leaving Coulter alone. With his thoughts, he had come to Earth expecting to fight a primitive species with crude weapons. Instead, he had encountered something far more dangerous than any advanced technology. He had encountered humans at war. General Coulter stood in the command center of his flagship, surrounded by the wreckage of what had once been the most powerful fleet in collective history. Of the 200 ships that had entered the human solar system, only 120 remained. 80 vessels had been destroyed by an enemy that possessed just 60 ships in total. The mathematics of the battle made no sense by a civilized standard. The humans should have been crushed within hours. Their technology was centuries behind collective. Standards. Their weapons were primitive nuclear devices compared to the elegant energy weapons of advanced civilizations. But the humans had turned their primitive technology into something far more dangerous than any advanced weapon. They had weapons of their own willingness to die. A commander approached the general with a datapad containing the latest intelligence. Reports? Its energy form was dim and flickering, showing thirst and exhaustion that all the collective officers felt after witnessing human warfare. General Wahave completed our analysis of human military doctrine, said quietly, "Their salts are... disturbing." Coulter took the datapad and began reading. What he saw confirmed his worst fears about humanity. The files contended records of human conflicts spanning thousands of years. Wars where entire armies had fought to the last soldier. Battles where humans had deliberately destroyed their own cities rather than surrender them to enemies. The humans called it scorched earth tactics. If they could not win, they would make sure their enemies gained nothing from victory. They would poison water supplies, burn crops, and demolish infrastructure. They would turn their own lands into wastelands rather than hollow occupation. "Look at this section about their nuclear weapons doctrine," said, pointing to a particular part of the report. "They have something called mutually assured destruction. If any enemy attacks them with planet-killing weapons, they will respond by destroying an enemy's homeworld, even if it means their own destruction." Coulter read the section with growing horror. The humans had built enough nuclear weapons to destroy every planet in the galaxy. They had submarines hidden in their oceans, each carrying missiles that could turn entire worlds into radioactive waste. They had satellites orbiting their sun, equipped with weapons that could cause stars to explode. They would really destroy Themyscira, just to hurt their enemies, according to their own historical records. Yes, they have done it before in a smaller scale. During their Second World War, human soldiers would call in artillery strikes on their own positions if they were being overrun by enemies. They preferred to die rather than be captured. The general continued reading, and each page made the situation seem more hopeless. The humans did not fight wars to capture territory or resources. They fought wars to completely eliminate their enemies. They had no concept of acceptable losses because they considered any sacrifice worthwhile if it led to victory. "Sir, we are receiving multiple transmissions from human colonies throughout the galaxy," reported the communications officer. "It appears word of our attack has spread to their settlements." "Show me." The main display filled with messages from human colonies on dozens of worlds. Men and women in mining equipment, farming clothes, and civilian dress stood before cameras and spoke directly to the collective fleet. "This is Colony Administrator Sarah Kim from New Terra. We have received word of unprovoked attack on our home world. All civilian ships in this system are being converted to military vessels. We will arrive at Earth within 2 weeks. This is Captain Michael Chen of the merchant vessel Far Trader. We are loaded with industrial equipment and heading to Earth at maximum speed. These stools will be converted to weapons when we arrive. This is Dr. Alina Rodriguez from the research station at Proxima Centauri. We are abandoning our scientific mission and returning to defend Earth. Our knowledge of alien technology will be used to create more effective weapons." Dozens of similarmices filled the display. Human colonies throughout the galaxy were abandoning their peaceful activities and rushing to join the war. Farmers were becoming soldiers. Scientists were becoming weapons designers. Children were